Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on enhancing practices in research supervision. So today's webinar will be chaired by Dr. Guna Segaran. So I will invite Dr. Guna to start the session.
Thank you, Social Professor Dr. Azza. As was introduced, I'm Associate Professor Dr. Guna Segaran Karupanan from Center for Graduate Studies, UNICEL, and welcome all for our next webinar organized by Center for Graduate Studies, UNICEL. And today we are very lucky to have well-known and experienced speaker on thesis supervision, which I think will be very beneficial to all of us, including me. So today we have got Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam, who is currently a professor in the finance divisions of Faculty of Applied and Human Science at University Malaysia, Perlis. He received his bachelor's degree from the International Islamic University Malaysia and his MBA and his PhD from University of Science Malaysia. Prof. Aminul Islam has also completed an advanced diploma in teaching in higher education from Nottingham Trent University. Prof. Islam received quite a number of awards. For example, as the Raffles Education Founders Award for being the most deserving academic staff of Olympia College Malaysia in 2006, an Excellent Academic Support Award in 2009, the Best Lecture Award in 2010, the Best Supervisor Award in 2018 and 2019 for producing the most number of PhD graduates, and Research Excellent Award in 2020 and 2021 at University Malaysia Perlis. He has also won the Best PhD Thesis Award in 2011 for the Outstanding PhD Dissertation at University of Science Malaysia. He is a member of Asian Academy of Management, Malaysian Institute of Management, and an associate member of Malaysian Finance Association. He is also a visiting professor of Ubudiyah University, Indonesia, Northern University of Bangladesh, Daffodil University, International University, East Delta University, and Thammasat University, Thailand. He has conducted numerous workshops and webinars on issues related to research methodology and data analysis in many countries. He has also authored and co-authored 5 books, 2 book chapters, and about 230 research papers. His writings have so far attracted nearly 700,000 reads in the ResearchGate and about 7,000 citations in Google Scholar. So, as I've introduced, I think we are very lucky to have Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam as our speaker, and I'm sure we will learn a lot about supervising our supervisors, our supervisees, okay, to be a better supervisor. So without wasting any time, I would like to invite our speaker today, Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam, to carry on with this speech. Prof, maybe we'll give you around 1 to 1.5 hours, and then after that, I'll go for the questioning and answering session. Up to you, Prof. Thank you.
All right. Bismillah. All right. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Guna Segaran, the moderator for this session today. I'd like to thank the Center for Graduate Studies of UNICEL, University of Sri Lanka, for inviting me to share some of my exposures, experiences that I have gathered through supervision, through examining PhD thesis as external, internal, and also sharing the final Viva sessions. But definitely, I would like to also thank, before I start, Yang Bar Usaha TS Dr. Nur Azza bin Muhammad Nawawi, who has actually communicated with me and invited me to join with you. I'm very delighted to be here because this is the first time somehow I get a chance to be in touch with UNICEL or UNICEL, even though I heard a lot about it, but I never had a chance to visit the campus or never had even an webinar with UNICEL. So this is the first time. I have conducted webinars almost every universities in Malaysia, including UKM, UPM, UTM, USM, and UIE, many universities. I think the two universities are notable that I have not done it yet is University Malaya and University Utara Malaysia, which is my neighbor. And of course, UNICEL. So it's good to have a session with you. So let me start with that. I am Aminul Islam. So I'm originally from Bangladesh, but has been living in Malaysia for about 26 years. So I am quite conversant in the Bahasa Malayu, and I'm very familiar with the cultures in this country, all right? So this is my 13th year working with University Malaysia Police, 13 years. Huh? So with that, let me start my talk today. I do have also for you to know that I do have a YouTube channel, Platform for Research and Development. It's dedicated for basically for PhD students. I have uploaded so far 107 videos. It's all about research methodology and issues related to PhD and master by research students. I hope my slides are visible. So shall I continue? Is that okay, Prof. Guna?
Yes, Prof. Visible. Carry on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with this. Success is a vehicle which moves on wheel named hard work, and the journey is impossible without the fuel named self-confidence. This is a very nice slide that I got from the social media, and I really liked it. These two key points are applicable for both the supervisor as well as the supervisee. As an academic, when we get students, we get excited. And definitely after that, when the student start working, we realize it's not something that easy things to do. There's so much of hard work that we have to put together. I think there's a voice coming from somewhere.
Yeah, yes, Prof. Sorry, I'll try to tackle that. Can you just carry on, Prof?
Sure. So it's like in a family, when we get a new baby is born, everybody get excited, very happy, very delighted. And then when the baby started growing, we started feeling the pain of nurturing and letting the kids to grow. Similar thing happened with the PhD student. When you get a student, we get excited that I got a student. We tell people I'm supervising this number of students. But at the beginning, the enjoyment, the feeling of delighting of having students may not last very long, because once we start supervising students, we realize it's not that easy. It's equivalent to nurturing a kid to be grown, okay? So when you are getting a PhD student, basically you are just getting an academic baby, and you have to help him to get matured, and you have to help him to grow. That is our hard work that we have to put in. So as a supervisor, that is the first point I would like to make. When you would like to take this student, we have to have that commitment of working hard, the sincerity to work hard to make sure the student really grow with us. That's number one. And number two, definitely the self-confidence from both sides, the student as well as the supervisor. When we attend the proposal defense session with the students as a supervisor, and those of you, of course, attended, you had the experience, or even we go to the final viva session, we practically, as supervisor, do not have any right to speak. So we have to listen, and we sit there and we see helplessly the student fail to respond the way they should be responding, right? So the student got to be self-confident, and that at that time, as a supervisor, we have to show our patience, wisdom, and maturity to deal with that kind of situation to make sure the student goes through the trouble time during the viva sessions. Well, the issue of dropout, especially in the doctoral programs, are well documented across the globe. We know that PhD students are usually the high achievers, and they are supposed to be the brightest and most successful students. And yet, it is documented worldwide, data that is evident that the succession, the success rate or the completion rate of PhD student enrolled is only 50%, meaning that 50% students who has enrolled to undertake PhD studies will drop out at some point, 50%. Huh? So that is the highest dropout rate among all other degrees compared to undergrad, masters, and then coming to postdoctoral. So this is very alarming. We are taking high achievers, brightest students, successful students, and yet the completion rate is only about 50%. And this data tells us many things about the style of supervision and the way we supervise a student. It is possible that because of the way we supervise may not be, the way it's supposed to be, and somehow dishearten students. The students get frustrated and then they drop out from the programs. We know when we started doing PhD, we had a dream of completing PhD. As we have completed, we know what kind of dream we had before we started doing PhD. Likewise, every student, when they decide to go for PhD, of course, they had a big dream. They would like to become, somebody in the academic world. And that's why they undertake the PhD study. And then when they drop out from a program, definitely there are certain reasons. Of course, not all reasons related to the supervisors, but there are high amount of the high contributory factors could be the way we supervise students. Let me, before I start on the practices and all that, a study conducted by Shidu et al. In 2017 on Malaysian postgraduate students from 2 public universities in Malaysia. And they revealed that postgraduate students perceive the supervision in Malaysia are moderate in terms of practices, personal commitment, and positive climate created during the supervision process. However, during the personal interview session, the students, they have somehow vented the frustration by saying that they felt uneasy when he said that the supervisor failed to maintain the confidentiality while they are supervising the student. Remember, when the student coming to meet us and we become supervisors, we become like a role model. We are transferring the knowledge, one-to-one transfer of knowledge. That is PhD, right? So when you are transferring the knowledge, definitely the supervisor will get close to the supervisor. And we'll have to share many things with the supervisors. It could be some personal things, some mental, physical issues, psychological issues will come in beside academic and financial aspects. All right, so it is very important for us to maintain the confidentiality. That's what students wanted to say. Beside the other 2 reasons, the students highlighted that they failed to get prompt response and constructive feedback from supervisors. And that's why I'm going to drill a lot on it, all right? So when you supervise the students, we'll tell the students, you make sure you maintain the deadline. You give me this chapter at that time, this chapter at that time. But unfortunately, many cases we discover when students submit the draft, supervisors not giving feedback timely. And also the feedback given are not very constructive, all right? I have seen supervisors, okay? Students come and, comes and tells me that the supervisors gave the draft and was reading, and after reading the first page, doesn't want to read anymore. So the students say, why? He says, everything is wrong in the first page. The grammatical errors and all that, and the supervisor refused to read the rest of the sessions. So now we can imagine if you are a supervisor and submitted a draft that took you about 4 months to 5 months to 6 months, and giving it to the supervisor for some positive feedback, and supervisor refused to read because the first page is not right. So to me, at the beginning, because this is the first time the student has written something, has never written before. Of course, there will be full of mistakes, full of errors. So our job is to read the whole draft and see whether he's getting into the point, because research is undertaken with an identified research problem. So that should be the thing to look at rather than looking at grammatical errors and all that, right? And sometimes a beginner, first few pages may not be that good, but as you read through and you see the improvements, coming along. So that kind of thing is there. So the students somehow have shown their frustration on the 3 matters, Malaysian students, postgraduate students. One is confidentiality not maintained. Number 2, the response given are not very prompt, and the feedback given are not very constructive. I have seen even many times, when my students attend Viva sessions, And we receive the reports by examiners, internal examiners, external examiners. So read through, we see that they criticize, but they do not provide any constructive suggestion for making improvements. This is what is unexpected. When somebody criticizes you, he or she should be able to give you constructive, positive suggestions to make improvements. And that's why the reason the supervisor is supposed to be there, okay? And the students also pointed out that they looked for a nurturing and positive climate during supervision. So that's what they want, nurturing and positive climate. That's what I said, when you're getting a PhD student, basically you are getting an academic baby and the baby will grow with you. As we grow, the student also grows, all right? And later I will show you how postgraduate students contribute enormously in our academic development and growth, all right? So at the end, the Shidu et al. 2017, they have recommended that supervisors need to work together with the students and facilitate supervision process in a positive and nurturing climate so that the students can complete their thesis on time and develop as confident member of the learning communities, all right? So this study was somehow an eye-opener. I have seen few other studies, but this one was a very constructive and eye-opener study for us, especially those of us supervising students. The students are telling that we are not very good in creating positive or nurturing climate for them, all right? A congenial environment whereby they will learn through mistakes and they will grow, all right? And they reach at a certain point so that they can get the PhD degree. So this is how it is, right? So a supervisor is a leader, it's not a boss, right? The supervisor will help the student to grow. That's what I was talking about, okay? Now, let me start quickly talk about research. Research basically start with the research problem, and that one we have to highlight from the beginning. When a student come and see us and tell us, Prof, I would like to do a PhD, wish to really a student, what do you want to do? And then we try to reach an agreement to see that the student knows exactly what is the problem that he would like to undertake for a PhD research. So the problem has to be identified and defined. If the student fails to identify problem correctly, he is going to face trouble in every steps of his next processes of PhD graduation. Proposal defense, pre-viva, then final viva position. Every session he is going to be in trouble if not the problem is clearly identified and defined. So the question like, what are the issues? Tell me about issues, why you want to do a study? What motivated you to do a study? That sort of questions should be always there. And the students will be struggling to answer unless he has really identified and defined his research problem correctly. And then some other definition that I like, for example, like research is a journey. So as we say, PhD is a journey. Those of you are familiar with my YouTube channel, I do run a mega webinar on the PhD journey, and the title is PhD journey, whereby I invite 2 university vice chancellors to come and share their PhD journey experiences to motivate the current students. We're going to have a session on 18th of July with University Malaysia Police VC and the VC of an Indian university, the 5th session. So if you like, you can join, right? So PhD, basically a journey. A research is a journey. Is to start with some preparation. Pre-preparation has to be there, and during the process, you may face obstacles and whatever. As you know, when you travel, you prepare your luggage and baggages as you need. And during the way, you face any obstacles and problems and all that, you'll overcome to reach the destination you're supposed to be. And that is the research that we undertake. That is the PhD study that a student undertake, all right? Now, looking at the definition of postgraduate study, basically the definition is a defining characteristics of a research-based program that must include the creation of a significant piece of research. So we are saying that the research the student complete, it has to be something significant, something contributory to the society, to the industry, to the nation, or to the world, so that they can be entitled for a higher degree of the institution they have chosen. All right, now again, academic institutions, the way we define research for PhD or research students, it is an original investigation undertaken in order to gain knowledge, understanding, and while gaining knowledge might be narrowly seen as assessing facts, understanding necessarily involves explanation, all right? So finding out why certain phenomena occurs, all right? So meaning that when you are talking about a PhD study, it has to be original, it has to be novel. We may replicate some studies, but again, something new has to be proven, something new has to be shown, some new knowledge has to be contributed to the existing body of knowledge. Now, let me just differentiate what is a master degree and what should be a PhD degree. All right. And many times, even we see when you attend the final Viva session, for the master's students, we question like we are dealing with a PhD student because of not understanding the clear demarcation between master thesis and a PhD thesis. So in a master degree, what you want is the student should be able to demonstrate that they have obtained knowledge, understanding, skills, and capabilities in the field of study that is superior to the bachelor degree program. So we just wanted to see something additional compared to what they have learned from bachelor degree. So master degree is just another degree after the bachelor degree. So master students should be able to show that they have acquired a higher level of study skills that allow them to continually progress on their, on their own in a greater autonomy, meaning that in the degree level, students are always spoon-fed. They are truly dependent on the lectures and tutorials that is given to them. But when it comes to master level, we expect students to be more independent, all right, more independent. And when they reach at the PhD level, is completely independent research. That's what it is, all right? So master thesis, that's what we expect. And number 3, I put it in a red mark, exhibit greater ability in their chosen field of research and development. Here, we are not looking into new knowledge contribution at all. So in a master research, what you want to know is the student has developed the skills and capabilities, abilities to conduct research with the support of supervisors, all right? But as they finish master's program, they should develop some kind of maturity, independence, and autonomy to conduct research. So that's what expected for a master's study. But where you come to PhD, the candidate should demonstrate in-depth understanding of the field, exhibit mastery of the knowledge and skill in their field of study, show that they have expertise in research and are able to conduct research independently. So that's where the research methodology knowledge comes in, very important here, right? The students should be able to understand the research paradigm, the research approaches, research designs, research methods, data collection methods, the sampling methods, and all that has to be clearly understood by a PhD student. And then finally, they have to make an original and significant contribution in the field of study. That's why I was saying the difference between masters and PhD is masters, you look at the breadth, superficial. But when it comes to PhD, we look in depth. So they go deeper into a smaller area of research, and thereby they contribute significantly in the field of study. It could be in the form of new knowledge, could be proposing a new methodology. It could be practical contribution like policy recommendations and all that could be there, all right? But new knowledge contribution is the piece that we look forward in a PhD study. And definitely the candidate should be able to use an academic scholarly discourse capabilities to communicate their research findings. So once they complete PhD, they should be able to express what they have done and what they have found out, right? I remember there was a case, one student, one of my friends completed PhD from Malaysian University, and then he was accompanying me to meet a vice chancellor of a Malaysian university. And that VC was my direct teacher at UIA. So the vice chancellor, Prof, that Prof, when he knows that he just completed PhD, asked him, tell me about your PhD. So after 5 minutes, he stops. He said, why did you stop? Tell me something more. Because you have taken 3 to 4 years or 5 years to complete a PhD, you should be talking unstoppingly, you should be talking and talking. So I want to see that kind of capabilities in you because you have completed PhD. That is your PhD, right? Minimum 200 pages. That's what you expect from a PhD research. So the student should be able to speak. That's what he said, that the student should develop that capabilities, should be able to communicate in the field or to the universe, to the world, okay? And the PhD holder should be able to demonstrate the use of critical analysis, evaluation, and synthesis skill. So these 3 points that I separated with the red marks are the points that you look forward for a PhD student. So in a final Viva, if the student failed to prove that he has contributed significantly in terms of new knowledge or methodology or practical contribution, the student will not be entitled to get a PhD degree, all right? Now, what is supervision? Typically, a supervisor acts as a guide, as a mentor, a source of information, source of motivation, source of inspiration. So he becomes a facilitator to the student as they progress through the research, all right? So offering advice in your field of study and providing direction for research, setting milestones and monitoring progress, providing feedback, encouraging, supporting, and all that is there. That's what make it a supervision, all right? So we have to guide through the student to answer the questions, the research question that is being structured, constructed, and so that at the end, any reader can find out the answers of the question being constructed. So although supervision is teaching one-on-one, the supervisor should strike a balance between supervision as teaching and supervision, right? So teaching is something else. Supervision is totally different, all right? So here we are playing as a role of a mentor, okay? We provide a role as a guide, a source of information, source of motivation, source of inspiration, all right? So that's what we are doing as a supervisor, not as a teacher, okay? So things are totally different here. If you want to have a productive supervision, then a productive relationship has to be developed, okay? And that comes through, first of all, mutual respect. And this point is very important. A PhD student could be older than us. I have a student who is now doing PhD from Indonesia, 5 years older than me, all right? And I had a postgraduate student who was 10 years older than me. And now I have postgraduate students who are older than me. Even they hold very high posts. I have a postgraduate student now, postdoctoral student, who is a vice chancellor of university, all right? Not from Malaysia, from outside Malaysia. So you have different kind of students with different backgrounds. Sometimes I feel some students are more knowledgeable on certain area than me, especially when it comes to software, when it comes to reading the latest papers and all that. So we have to have mutual respect. And respect is reciprocal. I think we understand that. If I respect you, you'll respect me. If I don't respect you, you won't show respect to me. So there has to be some kind of mutual respect when you supervise the students. So that's where the supervisor-supervisor relationship will develop. And I'm going to talk about it later more, all right? An understanding of expectation of each other. As I said, it's reciprocal. Supervisors, we have to tell the students upfront at the first meeting what we expect from them. And students also should express their expectation from the supervisors. All right. For example, I had a meeting with one of my students who is a lecturer at a university in Malaysia. It's a Malaysian sister. When she met me first time, she said, "Prof, I will go a bit slow." I said, "Why?" She said that I got one kid and I am now pregnant. I said, "Okay, understood. You go slow, it's all right. But we still have to work, right?" She said, "Yes, I understand that since I enroll, I'm committed, I'm sincere, but you have to please excuse me. You cannot really give me too much pressure. I would like to go slow." So I have taken that, you know. So the student can tell us, or even we can ask the student, "What do you expect from me?" All right. And we have to tell the students what we expect from the students at the beginning, at the first meeting. Shared commitment to the goal of the study. As I said, when you take a student under supervision, it's like you are taking a baby, academic baby. So you have to nurture the student. So we have to have our own commitment. The student also have to have commitment, a high commitment, hardworking mentality, and sincerity to work. All right. And the communication has to be open. We cannot be looking at 8 hours, 8 to 5. Do not call me after 5 o'clock. Do not call me in the weekend. That doesn't work. In a supervision world, we have to be open. Weekends, the student may meet us. We can meet the student. After working hours, even they can meet us as we have busy schedules. So we have to have open communications. Now with the social media, even it becomes easier. We can just create a Google Meet link and just send a student, "Okay, let us meet online," right? So that can be done. So if you would like to have a productive supervision, these 4 points are very important, and that has to be kept in mind. This is what I do, right? In a PhD, it's not that easy, as we have gone through this. It's full of hurdles. First of all, when we started reading papers, I used to remember, I feel like just running away from the PhD room at USM. When I started reading papers, after 2-3 piece of the pages, I feel like I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to read it. So I used to go out from the room, and get some free breath, and then I will come back again. So full of hurdles. You go to proposal defense and you get shots from the examiners, and you get like shocks of life. The way the question being thrown and the way you try to tackle the questions. And then you go for data collection, you are reviewing literature, you are collecting data, you are analyzing the data. When you get the analysis of data and the outcomes are in front of you, outputs are in front of you, and you see most of the hypotheses are rejected. So there are many hurdles are there, and finally, you are filling up a gap, the problem that you have identified. So it's full of hurdles, full of challenges and obstacles. But at the end, we know that a beautiful destination can only be, most of the time, we say difficult roads often lead to beautiful destination. When you really work hard, we are committed, we put effort in it, at the end, we really enjoy it, all right? I know some people, I have some friends, academic friends, they say, when they go for PhD, he say, brother Amin, do you think I'm going to do my PhD? No, I'm not going to do it. I said, then why are you enrolling? No, somebody will do it for me. So meaning that before they enroll, they have in mind that somebody is going to write it for him. All right. And I have seen many examiners during the Viva session, final Viva session. The examiner will say, I'm sorry, I'm unable to comment on chapter 4 because I'm not good in software. I say, then you should not have been an examiner then. Am I right? A PhD is given based on chapter 4 and 5, not because of chapter 1 to 3. Chapter 1 to 3 is basically, we all take from people, from literature. But chapter 4 and 5 is all mine. So chapter 4 and 5 should be drilled strongly during the final Viva session. Chapter 1 to 3 should be given during the proposal defense. But final Viva session, more focus should be given on data analysis, the findings, and how students discuss the findings and the contribution to the new, to the field of study and all that. So they are full of, hurdles there. So if we, during the PhD, do not learn the software that is needed, then later when we become supervisor, we will suffer. Because when the student gives us the output, we will be unable to read and give them the feedback, and the student will suffer later on. All right. So there's no shortcut rule in PhD, and there's no shortcut rule in supervision. Even though we have not learned the software during our PhD journey, for the sake of good supervision, productive supervision, we should learn the software that is needed. For example, for management and marketing, the smart BLS or SPSS, for economics, accounting, finance, the data, for qualitative study in Vivo, Atlas T, and there's so many softwares available. The R and there's so many, Python and all that is available now for data analysis and all that. So whatever field we are in, we should master the software. Otherwise, we will not be a productive supervisor. Now, this is a situation that everybody goes through in every one of our life. We all love to stay in the comfort zone. So we'd like to come to the office at 9 and we want to go back at 5, and we do not want to have extra problems and extra hurdles, and we do not want any tension tax. This is normal. And same goes to the PhD student. They want to live in a comfort zone. They do not want to challenge themselves. But if you are living in a comfort zone, if we are living in a comfort zone, and the student lives in the comfort zone, he will never progress, he will never have a growth, and he will never finish PhD. And even as an academic, if we do not challenge ourselves and leave the comfort zone, we will never grow. I have hundreds of friends who started academic career with me. They are still a lecturer. They are still a lecturer, They are still a lecturer in Malaysia. And alhamdulillah, I become a professor, it's because of leaving the comfort zone and fall in the fear zone. And if you can win the fear zone, you fall in the learning zones. And once you cross the learning zones, you have the growth zones. All right. So that has to be explained to all supervisors and students. If you want to have your growth, you have to challenge yourself. We have to challenge ourselves. All right. So we have to cross the border of the comfort zone. We fail in the fear zone, then we go, we want to cross it, we go to the learning zones, and then only we will fall in the growth zone, and you will be surprised to see the way you are going to grow. All right. I'm going to show you later the experience that I had with the supervision and the growth I have together with the supervision. Let me cover this. There was a story run in the Forbes, world famous magazine in 2007. And they said that who dares to catch the cell phone king, the Nokia. In 2007, Nokia had 1 billion customers in the world. What happened? After a few months, Nokia is totally being wiped out from the market. All right. Why? Because they failed to upgrade, they failed to update the features, services, and all that. So the other mobile companies came out with the upgraded versions that is more suitable, more admirable, more loving sort of features and all that with the customers. So Nokia was completely being phased out, wiped out on the market. So when we are taking students, please bear this in mind. When a student propose title, make sure the title is something updated, upgraded, because when they finish PhD, we have to make sure their PhD is still relevant, is still workable, is still something, feasible in the world. The World Economic Forum, every year, they will publish top 20 areas that is booming, and top 20 fields that is losing the attractiveness in the industrial area. So when we supervise, we have to guide the students to make sure he chooses some kind of topic that will have value in future, in 5 years or 10 years to come. Otherwise, what will happen is like what Nokia is being done. The students will complete PhD and he will be looking for a job and he will be walking on the street. Nobody is there to take him. Even though he got a PhD, but nobody is going to employ him because the PhD he has done is no more relevant to the society. You've got to be very careful, all right? Now, these are some complaints from examiners and supervisors often we see, right? For example, like the area is very broad, unfocused topic, unidentified highlighted issues, no real questions or positions, sense of purpose, clumps of information, inappropriate sources, no clear sense of voice, and the ideas are disorganized. So these are the comments that we get when it comes to identifying the research problem, research gap. That is the driving force, the nucleus of research, all right? So this is another one, sometimes, especially when we start supervising a student fresh, we have too much of expectation from the students, all right? So as you see in a photo, it looks like a supervisor asking the students to produce different kinds of fruits in one tree, which is impossible, all right? So an apple tree can only produce apple. You cannot expect apple tree producing orange. So when the students coming do a PhD, through one PhD, he's not going to win the world, okay? It's just a PhD. So we have to concentrate in areas. Say, for example, then what way we contribute the new knowledge? If the student is working on the producing apple, then he has to produce the apple in bigger size. That is a contribution. Or the quantity is more, that is a new contribution. Or more nutrients, that is a contribution, all right? So the student can work on an area where thousands of people have done studies. A lot of theories are there being tested and retested, but still research can be undertaken using the same theory, provided the student extend the theory, the student modify the theory, the student nullify the theory, the student possibly verify the theory, the student possibly can integrate few theories and coming out with a new framework. That's how the students will contribute in the body of new knowledge, all right? Now, when you are supervising, that's how things become critical. A student is interacting with the supervisor. A student with interacting with Institute of Postgraduate Studies. That's what you have, Center for Graduate Studies. And then you have the university there. For graduate school, they deal with many different schools. Engineering, sciences, general sciences, we have social sciences, we have business, and many different faculties. So not all faculties will be having similar practices. We have differences when it comes to thesis, right? So the university, so student is dealing with that, and that's only he is getting the base point score, right? Finally, he is going to come out with something, right? So student actually being squeezed by the rule of the university, by the roles given by the supervisor, and the role given by the graduate schools, all right? So that one we have to keep in mind as supervisors while we are supervising. So this is taken from Duncan, all right? He feels that he and Dr. Julie, they feel that there are 6 phases in the postgraduate supervision journey. It starts with the application process, and then once he is admitted, then he will be finding out the gaps, all right? And supervisors looking at what is required, what kind of supervision required, because not all applicants, all PhD scholars should be similar. When a student come and meet us first time, we know what kind of a student he is. And based on that, we have to decide what kind of style I'm going to use for him or her, right? And then start the development, professional identity, completion. And then also supervisors, even a student has completed a degree, still we have a role to play in terms of publication, getting attachment, a job for him and all that. All right. So that's what is being promoted by Duncan and Julie. All right. So I have taken this rather in different way. I'm going to put it as postgraduate student cycle is student life cycle in 4 different stages. The first stage is definitely preparation stage, or we call it foundation stage. That's where we ensure the relationship is right. It's like when you get married, husband and wife. Sometimes the male and female may have been together for sometimes, you know, as a friends, but never lived together under the one roof. So when you start living and you see many difference of opinion, different ideas and attitude, all that comes in. And that's the time, the first 2 years, we have to put the things right. And that will be the foundation for the rest of the life, all right? So well, I know we have many friends, right? The marriage did not last very long. Even I have a friend who divorced after 3 months. You know, I got friends even 3, 6 months, 1 year, many. So the relationship, the foundation being laid at the beginning, and that's very important. And that comes to the postgraduate supervision. As we said, that the relationship between supervisor and supervisee is like marriage of convenience, right? Sometimes I'll come into that later. So the relationship has to be developed at the beginning, all right? Getting to know the students, carefully assessing the student needs, the strengths and weaknesses, establishing reasonable and agreed upon expectations, working with the students to establish strong conceptual focus, you know, structure and all that. So here in this stage, basically the key focus in the mental checklist, mental stage of the student's planning, and we have to help the student to read, and then start writing. And once the foundation phase is over, then the next phase is definitely the formative stage. That's where the students will establish a strong conceptual structure of the research, meaning that students may have already read 20, 30, 40 papers, all right? And then we can ask the students to start writing early, and then we initiate regular contract and providing quality feedback, and then a student getting ready to defend the proposal, right? So here in this stage, the key focus is on completion of literature, finalizing the theoretical conceptual framework, and consolidating the research proposal. So that is the second stage, we call it formative stage. The third stage, very important, we call it momentous stage or implementation stage. Now, the student is getting involved in the real life, right? The life of the department, the training courses and talks. We send students to workshop, webinars. We train the student. We send students to seminars, conferences, all that. We monitor the research method, you know, now coming into the method now, then data collection, data analysis. So we send students to workshops, webinars, seminars to learn the software that is required for his study and all that. So the key focus here is executing, controlling, providing feedback, helping students on data collection, data analysis, and looking at the written work he has and helping to improve the work, all right? So that is the third stage, momentous, and the student will get into momentum because he may have already defended the proposal. So he got a momentum now, all right? So he is now ready to collect the data and all that. And finally, the fourth stage, I call it as a maturation stage. So here we carefully monitor the final written production, all right? Make sure thesis is well presented, all right? Following the criteria given by the university, preparing for the viva and monitoring the student progress, motivating, inspiring the student for the future careers. And now here, we are not looking at supervising students alone on the draft. Now we are also looking at publishing, helping students how to write a paper, and then getting him, you know, to learn how to select journals, letting him learn how to submit a paper in a journal, and letting him to learn how to, you know, revise paper when they get feedback from the reviewers and all that, you know. So finally, a paper is being published and all that. For my student, I have been practicing in that from the beginning, and I have been very successful in that. When the student is ready to propose, defend the proposal, I will ask the student to write a concept paper, review paper based on the literature review, and then we'll publish it. So the student get the first motivation. The first paper is out, the student gets highly motivated, inspired. He has already published a paper, right? So that's that kind of thing that we have to do it. So at the end, when the student is ready with the outputs, definitely he's ready to publish papers. And some universities has requirement, like in our university, the student must accumulate 10 points, meaning he has to have 2 publications, all right? So I'm not sure about UNICEF. I'm sure that you do have also certain kind of requirements, publication requirements there. Some university even have high expectation for students even on the publication, all right? So this is the maturation stage where students would be like a good writer, a good publisher of research work and scientific works and all that.
Dah bersiap sedia, Dah bersiap sedia.
All right, shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Sorry for that.
No problem. Thank you. So so far discussed the 4 stages. I think is very clear. We start with foundation stage, then we go to the formative stage, and then we come to momentous stage, and then we come to a maturity stage. So there are 4 stages as I see, but there could be more stages as you go through in your experiences. You may define it differently. All right. Now, to be an effective supervisor, we have to be familiar with few more things. All right. For example, like management. When you are managing in the student, we have to also manage many things. Like we have to make sure the student is familiar with the institutional policy. Right. I was saying that the students is required to publish 2 papers, and the facilities and resources needed. That the academic expectation for me, the risk management, the documentation. So that is very important. I remember there was a case, a student came to see me after 5 years of study, and the students were suffering. So the student came to see me in the draft. I said, okay, I'll go through the draft. So I looked through the draft and I asked, did you publish any paper? And she said, no, not yet. So I said, how?
Masuk macam tu aja.
All right.
Baru habis kelas. Dekat group.
I think Prof. Iswandi, can you please mute your microphone?
Supervision.
Yeah. We are doing it from here, Prof.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So one is the management, looking at managing the students from various things, right? Even like I do have few students, they have financial issues. So when they come and tell us, Prof, I'm having problem with, I cannot pay the tuition fee the next semester, we'll advise the students, why don't you defer 1 semester? If the student defer 1 semester, 6 months, he doesn't have to pay, because he has 5 years of candidature. So 1 semester deferring is not a problem. The university allows it if the supervisor recommends. And then these 6 months, he can still work. He can still work, right? On his way, and he can still communicate with the supervisors. So things like that, we have to manage it very well. And there are many cases where students get psychological and mental issues and all that. We got to manage them very well. The next important element is definitely knowledge, right? The educational one is 1-to-1 knowledge transfer. It's like our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sahabas used to learn from him 1-to-1 knowledge transfer. It's about supervisor student. A student only learns what the supervisor is teaching him. It's all about 1-to-1 knowledge transfer. All right. Students go through the literature review, the processes and all that, but still the guide, the final thing comes from the supervisor. And finally, when the hard copy is submitted, who signed the thesis? The supervisor and the student. All right. To document that it is being done together, the knowledge transfer is 1-to-1, from the supervisor to the student. And then the supervisor has to provide supporting role, emotional role, being availability at all the time, sensitivity role model, showing commitment, communication and all that. If you happen to come to my office, I would definitely invite you to come to our campus, and you can come to my office. My office door is always open. When I'm inside the office, my door is open. And many students will come and say, Prof, should I close the door? I say, no, it should be open. There is a background behind this. I had many female PhD students before. And among them, 3 or 4 of them are very emotional. Like one was a divorcee. One was quite old, but have not got married. And one was having problem with her husband for some reason. I cannot tell you that. It's confidential. So every time the student coming to see me, I know she's going to cry. So how do you feel? A girl sitting in front of you, your door is closed, and from the glass outside, somebody see you, the girl is crying in front of you. So the people will be thinking like, I must do some harm, like I have used some abusive word, I did something, that made the girl cry. So that's why I keep the door open. So how did I deal with these 3 students? Out of these 3, one girl finally dropped out from the program. She couldn't handle the emotional part because she had to divorce her husband. The other 2 managed to complete. But every time they come and sit in front of me, the first thing I will ask these 2 girls is, hey, are you going to cry today? That will be my beginning. So the girl, the student will say, no, Prof, I'm not going to cry today. I know even though she says he's not going to cry, she will cry. So this is how emotional the student could be. Even most of the final Viva session, I'm very sure you have witnessed it. Almost 90% students will cry. It could be cry for joys, or it could be cry for sorrows. But everybody cries. Everybody cries, right? Even when we defended our final Viva session, I remember when I defended mine, after the final Viva session, when they asked me to come out and I was outside and waiting alone, I did not bring anybody with me, And that 15 minutes of waiting is like few years of waiting, And I realized that I did a great mistake. I should have brought somebody with me so that he could have accompanied me and I could have talked to him, And that's what I now advise all my students during the final Viva session. Make sure you bring somebody and she or he waits outside for you. So when you come out, at least you have somebody to share, somebody to talk to, okay? So that supportive nature, and I still remember while I was waiting for, to be called in, my supervisor, I think many of you may know her, Professor Dr. Rohani Ali, is well-known finance professor in Malaysia. She came out, she opened the door and looked at me and she just whispered to me, everything is fine, don't worry. It's like after 10 minutes, she just come and she just came out and just told me, whispered to me, everything is okay, don't worry. And it gives me the sigh, it gives me the relief of tension that I have. So that's how a supervisor is supposed to play the role, all right? And that's what I said, when you are getting a student, you are getting an academic baby, and you have to make sure you nurture it very well, okay? So now role of supervisor, there could be many, I have already discussed, and few of them are here. Formulation of study, establishing the method, discussing the results, presentation for seminar conferences, publication of journal papers, and finally writing the thesis. These all elements supervisor had to play part, all right, in general. And these are the few out there. I'm not going to talk about it. I have shared the slide with TS Dr. Mamandur Azhar. She will share the slide with you, all right? So this slide I'm going to skip. Now, when there are certain elements of PhD journey, the first one is definitely the writing research proposal. And this is the time is very critical. The beginning, the starting is very difficult. It's very difficult. Start to write, very difficult. When we started writing, we didn't know where to start. That's how it is, all right? So supervisor should be assisting the student for the selection and planning of suitable and manageable research. Supervisor should be sufficiently familiar with the field of study so that he can provide guidance and all that to the student. And the student should also assume the leading role. This is very important. We have to tell the student, look at me, this is your research. I am just a facilitator. It is an independent research and you are going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to facilitate. Whenever I get into trouble, you have to come back to me. That one, we have to do it from the beginning, all right? Otherwise, you will have students who will be always waiting to be spoon-fed. All right, I think I will continue and finish my deliberation first and let you ask questions. Otherwise, some question you may ask me, which I have slides later. Like last month when I was training the Islamic University Police academic staff, I gave them the time to ask question after 30 minutes and they were asking question which I have slides later on, all right? So for today's session, I told TS Dr. Nur Azhar that I will give the question answer session towards the end. I hope it is okay with you. Unless, if you really disagree with me on something, you can always stop me and we can debate and discuss, no problem with me, all right? So the second one, the role in research and progress reporting, all right? The student is expected to assume control and responsibility for the research. In UNIMAP, I'm sure in UNICEL you have the same. The student has to fill in a progress report online. And then as a supervisor, we will be notified, then I have to fill in the progress report. I have to recommend the students to be continued for the next semesters, right? So supervisor should be accessible to the student for consultation and the student should be ready to share the progress with you at any time. And supervisor should meet student one-on-one, all right? And because of the pandemic situation that we have, many of us, we used to have Google Meet, Google Meet session with many students together. But now it is over. Hopefully, we will have a situation whereby students can meet us one by one and we have private conversations on the research and other problems they face, okay? The supervisor should ensure that the research environment is safe, healthy, and free for harassment, discrimination, and conflict, right? I had experience. A student came to see me somewhere, I think about 2 years before, and the student came to see me, looked quite frustrated, and it's not my student, you know, it's my colleague's student. And he came in and said, Prof, can I talk to you? I said, sure, please have a seat. He said, I'm very sad, Prof. So what happened? He said, I was reporting my progress to my supervisor, and then there was a case. The supervisor said that that you are not right, you are wrong. Then I told the supervisor, actually, I recently read the latest paper, and that paper has it, and I have the paper with me. So when he gave the paper to the supervisor was very angry. You know, he did not read the paper, keep aside and say, who is the supervisor, you or me? So that could be very intimidating. You know, it's like you're harassing a student. You're asking for trouble. You're having a conflict with the student. If as a supervisor, we are so busy with so many things, of course, we do not really read papers always. The students is doing the research at that moment. They will read the latest papers published. So definitely they may know more than us to a certain extent, and we have to accept it. You know, we have to be ready to accept it, all right? And then also supervisor should be able to make sure the student complies with the requirements, all right? That's what I said, the paper publication requirement is very important for certain universities. And also when the proposal defense is done and even the student pass, the comments given by internal reviewers at any map, the student has to submit the correction copy, you know, with the list of correction together in the CGS before he can proceed to distribute the questionnaire for data collection. So the certain compliance procedures are there in every university. It may differ a bit here and there, but almost same, since we all follow MQA and higher education policies, right? Roles in thesis writing. The student should be the primary writer of the thesis. It shouldn't be writing. Supervisor should not be the editor of the thesis. We are not editor. We tell the student, this is not right, this is right, this is how you can do it, all right? But we cannot be writing for the students. We are not the editor. We may not be correcting every sentence that the student writes. I had, you know, the opportunity of supervising students from many countries. So for 23 students completed supervision, a PhD under my supervision. I had a student from Iraq, and he was the top student in Iraq. You know, in a written test in Iraq, he was #1 in Iraq. But when he came to see me, he came with a translator. He could hardly speak a sentence, in English. So the translator was talking to me. So I told him, Ali, please look at me. If that is the case, you are not going to finish your PhD. So I do not want to see you in next 6 months. Then his translator asked me, then what should he do, Prof? I say, ask him to go to Penang and enroll into an English language program for 6 months, intensive English language program. And after going through that course, ask him to come and see me. So the student was very good, and because under his scholarship. So he went to Penang, he enrolled into English language program. And after 6 months, he came to see me. He could speak now, but still he was not able to write. But he was so hardworking. One day he invited me to go to his house for lunch with my family. I went to his study room. The whole wall in the fourth side full of papers. He's written, handwritten papers pasted on the wall. You know, every paper he read, then he summarized it and written in his own hand, not even typed, and pasted it on the wall. So then he completed the thesis. You know, the student who couldn't even speak a sentence with me defended the thesis after 3.5 years, and doing very well in Iraq now. And I had a student from Yemen and Syria. I had a similar kind of problem. I think many of you are dealing with that, all right? So supervisor should be verifying the accuracy of discussion conclusion. Supervisor should be ensuring the university guideline being followed. And the university should provide the library resources. Of course, every university in Malaysia are very rich in terms of library resources, right? We have to respond timely and thoroughly to the written work submitted. You know, something I realized in this journey of supervising, examining thesis and all that, when we are examiners, we read line by line, and we are very constructive, giving suggestions and all that. But when it comes to supervision, we never read line by line of the student work. And we only realize when you go to proposal defense, hey, I should have read it, you know, I should have read it line by line. Huh? So that's what you realize. So as a supervisor, first of all, we must be reading line by line, word by word, the submitted document, and we have to give timely feedback to the student. So if we can do it when we are examiner, why can't we do it when we are supervisor? Actually, when you're supervisor, the responsibilities are more than when we are examiner. Unfortunately, it happens somehow, you know, otherwise. And the supervisors must ensure the students' work meets the standard of the university is understood. Roles in seminar conferences, of course, that's what I said for all my students. When they reach at the stage of proposal defense, I'll ask them write a review paper, concept paper, submit to a conference, go to the conference, present it, and let them get shots from people. All right, let them get the feeling of the academic world. All right, so we have to guide the student, and then they start feeling how the academic environment, academic world works in. All right, so that one we have to make sure. That's another role that we have to do. Roles in publication. Remember when we published the first paper? I remember my first paper I published. After getting the feedback from reviewers, I was thinking like giving up a publication. 3 pages long comments, Then I have done the editing, then I passed it to a friend, he did some editing, submitted back, then came back again, 1 page of full of correction list, And then I had to do it again. And finally, I published my first paper. But when it was published, it was full of joy. The first paper published. So the next publication became a bit easier, and we published more and more. The art of publication, the art of writing is being already there. So it becomes easier. So when we get the students, you have to understand, we have to put the student in our shoe. We have to put ourselves in the student's shoe. How I was when I was like him. That's the feeling we have to have. All right. So we have to help the students to learn to read articles, learn to write articles, and learn to publish articles. That is our job as supervisors. And that could be very rewarding, Later, I'm going to show you how rewarding could be if we teach students to be a good writer and a good publisher. Now, the supervisory team. This is very important. Sometimes in many universities, we have 2 supervisors, right? The main supervisor and co-supervisor. Like my university, if it's a local staff and senior staff, just 1 supervisor is fine. But people like me, an expatriate staff, I must have a co-supervisor who is local, a permanent staff, right? Because I'm on contract. So I have seen many cases, the conflict between main supervisor and co-supervisor, and a student gets squeezed in between this. And I know a student from a Malaysian university. Finally, after 3 defense, he failed. 7 years wasted is because of the conflict between internal and external supervisor. Sorry, the main supervisor and the co-supervisor. All right, both of them are very influential, and somehow they are supervising the two together as well as the students, and they had conflict in it. The student gets in between, and he was really suffered. And finally, after 7 years, he failed. He couldn't get the degree, and then he again enrolled into EUM and finally has completed his degree. So that happens when you have conflict between internal examiner and supervisors, or 2 supervisors. That could be always, And as a supervisor, please, that one keep in mind. Just because of a student, we should not let our relationship ruin. There's no way we should do that. Students, we have to treat them as a student. Sometimes students could be naughty, coming and telling supervisor something and telling the co-supervisor another thing. So we have to be very careful. So when you have a supervisory team, we have to make sure that we have good understanding and we have discussion and we decide on the directions of the students' progress and all that, okay? Now, the supervisory role or the relationship changes over time. The first meeting, all right, is different from the second meeting and so on, all right? Now, I'm sure those of you are with me now, all of you have WhatsApp group, a special group dedicated for PhD students. Like for me, since I always have about 15 students, my quota is full. So I have to have a WhatsApp group so that I can communicate many things together with all the students. Certain paper, like Barron and Kenny's paper for moderating, mediating, or Wilson's paper for mediating, I will share to everyone in the group. It's easier for me rather than one by one, right? And then also I do maintain a list by name, and then first meeting, second meeting, third meeting, and what stage the student in, I maintain that to be effective and productive in supervision. Maybe later, if I have time, I'll show you how I do it, or you can also understand it, And then also I had yearly planner in front of me with the dates. I think most of you have. Whenever I meet a student, I will put a comment there, my meeting with him, and discuss about what. So even I have a track records, how many times I meet the students and all that, okay? So every meeting that I have with students, I have to clearly, I have to clearly tell the students what I want the students to do and the way I decide to move forward, okay? This is a model. This is a summary from a paper, and I think you'll be surprised to know how long it took me to design. Design this slide took me 2 days, 2 full days. This is a paper based published on pedagogy and research supervision by Pakistani writer. And when I read the paper, I couldn't really get it in 1 day. I tried to sketch, I failed. Next day, I came to read again the paper, and finally, I managed to get it. But of course, this is not exactly what he propagated or what he proposes. This is something I have added and extended from him, right? So 3P is the purpose, pedagogy, and product. The purpose of doing PhD is what? Creating new knowledge, critically managing knowledge, and identifying and exploiting the existing knowledge. That is the purpose of the PhD, okay? And what's the pedagogy? Exploring, explaining, elaborating, evaluating, engaging, creating, transferring, integrating, embedding. These are the pedagogies that we use during the PhD journey, supervisor and supervisor. And what the product we see? Writing of chapter 1, introduction, chapter 2, literature review, chapter 3, methodology, data collection, conclusion, finally oral presentation, and then final submission. That is the product, okay? So these are the 3 level of, phases that you have in the development of knowledge among the students. We start with the purpose, then we have the pedagogy of conducting studies and all that, and finally, we have the output, the product. I have a plan of writing a paper on this. Hopefully, if I manage the time, I'll write a paper on this, all right? Now, some ground rules are here. I don't think I'm going to talk too much on it. I have already spoken quite a lot. Work diligently, meet expected standards, responsible academic rule, and all that. I'm not going to. Maintaining regular contract. That happens sometimes, being a supervisor when you are busy with too many things, especially those of you who have administrative responsibilities. You have difficulty maintaining, but still we have to try to maintain a regular contract with the students. It's basically a commitment that we have taken, accepted when we have enrolled a PhD student under us, all right? So we have to play a full role in the intellectual life of school. So we have to have some of regular meeting and all that, okay? Now, this is what do expect supervisors expect from a student, right? We expect them to be independent. We do not want to be spoon-fed. We want them to be confident when they go for research proposal defense or final viva. We want them to see confidently defending, talking, presenting, defending their work, right? Debating, arguing, all that. I remember there was this student, a Malaysian student, doing PhD with me at USM, and she was so firm and confident. At USM, the proposal defense is open; anybody can attend. So I was doing PhD, so I attended. I saw how it is, She was shooting back the internal examiner in a way. After a few questions, no one wants to ask her any question. It's because she has read every paper published recently, and she was so confident. The internal examiner may not have read all the papers, latest papers that is being published, and she read it. So she was shooting back, and then after that, internal examiners, she started keeping quiet, no question. So it was the PhD students asking her a few more questions, So we would be happy to see that kind of a student being independent and confident, all right? And the student become specialized in the theoretical aspects of research, the knowledge aspect of the research, and become competent in research method and the other specific skills that is required from them. So this is expectation from students, and you have to spell it out, tell the students from the beginning, all right? This is some of the supervisors views, the way we want our student to be. So this one I'm not going to read or explain. Basically, we have to explain our student. We want a student to be curious, to be inquisitive, to be creative, could be open-minded, taking ownership of his study, managing time effectively and all that. Definitely, that's what you want. This is about unhelpful characteristics, okay? The students that do not inform the supervisors or progress, are stuck in subordinate, other role and become passive and not really reactive, proactive become reactive and all that. So this is what, right? A supervisor is helping, right? Supervisor is helping, that's what I say, right? It's not like a boss, he's standing and letting them work. We are not that. Supervisor, we are role model, we are a leader, right? Now, this is some of the code of conduct that we have. We have to be available throughout the study period. If you are not, then we have to make alternative arrangement. I know the certain students that the professor, the supervisor has gone for sabbatical for 1 year. The student start suffering. I have a student now. His supervisor has taken 6 months leave, and the student doesn't know what to do. There was only supervisor available. The supervisor should make some alternative arrangement in case something happened like that. Comment on written work within reasonable time, providing access to appropriate equipment. I think that is okay. Let us look at what students would like to see among the supervisors. This is based on research studies. Okay, they want to see supervisors are very honest, very enthusiastic, organized, helpful, defending the student interests. Okay, this is something I have to tell you. There was one final Viva session I was attending. One of my students was presenting. And then after the presentation, the internal examiner said the student should re-defend the thesis. So the chairman asked the internal examiner why. He said he used PLAs and he used two dependent variables together, so it is wrong. So I politely asked the chairman, can I respond? The chairman said, sure, please. So I said, with all respect, this PSS event, we can have two dependent variables, but we have to run 2 times regression. Those of you understand. Why not PLAs is advanced software? We can run together, two together at the same time. He said, no, that is wrong. So, I got really into trouble, The chairman says, I don't think the student should defend because he defended the thesis so well. And now because of a matter of misunderstanding, you are saying it is right. And so I said, this is right. Because of that, I cannot let the student defend. So finally, I said, okay, what do you want? I asked the internal examiner. I said, if I get a verification from Pop Ramaya, from USM, who is well known for PLS and all that, he said, no, I don't trust. I said, then what do you want? He said, I want a verification from Joseph here, from US, Professor Joseph F. here. I said, okay, I take the responsibility to get the verification from him. So the student was given major correction because the chairman says, no, the student is very good, defended very well. Just because of one issue, I cannot ask the student to re-defend. So major correction. So I wrote to Professor Joseph here. He didn't respond. I wrote to Ringel. And then Prof. Ringel had responded in a way that was very confusing. Then I wrote to Sastid in Spain. He didn't respond. So I was really, in trouble. So I searched internet and found the latest email address of Professor Joseph here, who has written a book on PLS. He responded. He said, it is exactly what you are supposed to do. You have done it correct. Then I forwarded the email to the internal examiner and chairman. So that's how we have to defend the student. When students are in trouble, we have to take the responsibility. If the student is correct, we have to tell the student is correct. And we have to defend the student, definitely in a polite and courteous way. But unfortunately, what happens, from that time, that internal examiner, even though my colleague did not talk to me until he retires. He never talked to me. He was so angry with me. But to me, I was professional. I just wanted to make sure what is right and what is not right. So there's nothing wrong with me, right? So that's how it is. There could be situations like that when we have to defend our students. Remember, I said a supervisor is an academic baby that we have to take care. All right. Now, approachable, good listener, reassuring everything. And what the student do not want to the supervisor. Seeing supervisor too busy, forgetful, absent, controlling always, not committing time, not finding out what the PhD students want and all that, okay? So what to do if things goes wrong, okay? So there could be definitely times where we see things are not getting right. Like I give you an example, right? That final Viva was my student was asked to defend. And that's not only case,
Excuse me, Prof. Can we have another 5 minutes or we need more?
Give me another 10 minutes, 10 minutes,
10 minutes.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, thank you.
All right. So you should not be panicking, right? We should take it easy and we have to follow the rules and we get through, we seek advice from different people and all that. And we get into the dean and other help when you get into trouble. I remember there was a case, one of my students was asked to re-defend a proposal defense 3 times, and I was really what should he do now? So when after second defense, the proposal rejected, I sent the draft to a Malaysian professor and a professor from Spain. And both of them reacted that everything is correct. It's a very good proposal. But then here it is rejected. So what can we do? So later we started looking at the comments, nothing. So finally we understood there's something you propose they don't like. So we dropped that. And then he was passed. That's how it is. So sometimes you may get into conflict and we have to. we have to somehow get into right, by patience, wisdom, and maturity. That's what is expected. These are some general advice. I don't think I'm going to go through. This is very important. This is from Bloom taxonomy, right? The 3 H: head, heart, and hands. When we are supervising students, we have to have our knowledge, the thinking. Then we have to have heart, the feeling of supervision of the students. How he goes through the trouble and all that. And hands-on, showing exactly what they're supposed to do. So this 3 H has to work together when we supervise the students, all right? And that's what is being meant, right? The head is about knowledge, heart is about attitude and the skill. The practical one is about the hands-on, is about the skills that we have. This one, I would leave it to you. Basically, we are saying that supervisors, meet students, we should be breaking down the works, and then we work with the students like that, okay? Motivation is one part. We have to keep them, make sure that the students are motivated and always getting inspiration to complete the thesis on time. And for that, definitely we have to go into the needs of the students. Different students have different needs, and you have to make sure you have to identify the needs of the students so that the students can be motivated and complete the study. Okay. This part I will leave it for your own reading. All right. This is something about the style of learning and all that. Okay. Now, this is something that I would like to highlight. Supervisors should never get into argument with the student. Should never, okay, should never. We should not be giving a space to the student to argue with us like that, right? Rather, we have to nurture the student in a way. It's like we are nurturing a kid. If you allow the kids to argue with you, that's it. We are going to have a problem, right? So that's what you have to set the rule from the beginning. There's no way we can get in a situation like in a conflict between the students and supervisors, okay? That's how it is. Because of student supervision, we get up into the ladder. Because of publication supervision, we get points, we get promoted. Definitely, once we are growing, we have to make sure the students are growing with us together. Okay, so that's what we say. If we can prevent the fire, why should we be asking for extinguishers? Okay, so this one quickly I'll go through. Let's look at what type of supervisors you are. This is one. I call it a GPMG, General Purpose Machine Gun. Scolding a student always. Finding faults in scolding, so that shouldn't be done by a shock absorber. A supervisor being a shock absorber, right? I think it's explanatory. I'm not going to talk about peacekeeper. We are two kind of laissez-faire of style. Whatever students say, okay, go ahead, and finally the student get into trouble and we have problem. It is supervisor supposed not to be a peacekeeper. We're supposed to taking a leading role, all right? So that's very important. Philanthropy is giving everything to the student. We spoon-feed the student. There are many supervisors will print out or find out paper and share a student. Okay, we go through, read, and come back to me. And there are many cases even I have done before. Students coming in the bus stand, go and fetch them, keeping in the house, and all that. There are students who appreciates, but then there are students who doesn't appreciate even. So there are certain there's certain demarcation line is there. If you feel that the student is worthy of that kind of support, we have to. If you feel that the student is not worthy of that kind, definitely we shouldn't be, right? It's not always going to be giving, all right? So there has to be reciprocal giving and, taking sort of relationship with the student. Broadcaster, when the student comes and we just tell, we do this, you do that, and we do this, you do that, and we just let the student go, right? That shouldn't be the way. Non-existential, sometimes many supervisors look like the students is working with other people and producing the thesis and giving it to the supervisors. So the supervisors are non-existent, all right? That shouldn't be also the case. Bulldozer, we understand what does it mean. Lifesaver, we understand what does it mean. Encyclopedic, right? So we go through the bookish way of supervising. That doesn't work. There's everything, there are alternatives. And we have to teach the student, look for different alternatives when you get in trouble, okay? Procrastinator. Last minute jobs, okay? As supervisor, if you do last minute jobs, students will be also trained to be last minute doers, okay? Roller coaster, supervisor feel like, who I am, and wearing all those, branded things and all that. So it's more on the showing rather than getting into the real works that you do, right? 11.59, shop. Give me the draft tomorrow at 5 p.m. It doesn't work like that. Research doesn't go and doesn't work like that. Classifier, talking and classifying and going into it like more detail and deeper, and the student cannot go along with us. We shouldn't be that kind of, okay? Touch me not. Huh? Earlier I say, hey, you supervisor or me, that's kind of, it should not be the attitude of like that, okay? Analyst, I think is understood. And let me handle a little on the challenge of mental and physical health. The student, when they do PhD, there are many students go through mental and physical problem. And this is specific study as recommended that even there should be a crying room for a student in the library, They say the student anxiety and depression goes in a way, sometimes they look for a place where they can go and cry. So that's what is being, So this one I am giving you in the slides, you can go through. Students suffer a lot mentally, psychologically, and we have to provide, as a supervisor, we have to provide support to the students, all right? So this one, as we said, the relationship between supervisor and supervisee as close as marriage and as long as many marriages, all right? So this is an analogy taken. So from there, we can understand how it is. This is something that I came out with, may be helpful for you, student. This is a template. A student can summarize a paper within a single page. So I'm not going to define this. I think you will understand. Again, I have a video in my YouTube channel. You may go through. So once the students summarize 10 papers in these, even I have, this is an example how a paper can be summarized in single page. And even 10 papers can be summarized in one simple template. All right. And this is a template that I propose to make life easy. If student have a main problem, he can identify the major issues from literature, become issue 2, 1, 2, 3, and that become independent variable. And also looking at contextual issues, identifying and putting issue 1, 2, 3, 4. That lets him understand the phenomena and write the research problem correctly. These both templates are being proposed by me and it is being already copyrighted, all right? Okay, so in a conclusion, my last slide. So in the academic world of higher education, every dissertation completed reflects academic strength, right, and quality of academic institution. And it is like a trophy, when a student graduating, you get a trophy. You get a trophy because a student graduated under supervision. And then you suffer a lot. Huh? So he said, behind this number of many untold stories of endless challenges that we face, and still we have to be there to supervise. We have to brave enough to fight the odds in supervising of students. All right. So these are the few conclusions I made. I'm not going to go through since time is very short. Actually, the training I give to QUIP, Islamic University Police, was 3 hours. So I have to compress it to 1 hour. Right. So quickly, I just want to show you how pricey or how rewarding the supervision could be. The papers that we wrote together with the students so far been read by 706,000 people. 706,000 people, These are the number of people who have read our papers. And these papers are not all written by me. Majority are written by my students. That's the rewarding the supervision could be, okay? And this is my YouTube channel. Those of you are not familiar with me, already got about 7.65 subscriber, 1,000 subscriber. All right, so it's a one-stop center for research students. You may introduce your students and they may learn everything possible is there, everything there, the one-stop center for PhD students. And this is our latest citation, our 7,000 plus. So this, the rewards that I get from being sincere and committed to supervise the students. All right, as I grow with the students, I am very sure, inshallah, those of you who are sitting with me, you will also grow in the same way if you're committed, inspired, and motivated to supervise PhD students. With that, thank you very much. I pass it to Associate Professor Dr. Gunasekharan.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam. Okay, that was a very, very interesting talk. Okay, I'm sure most of the supervisors also have gone through and also going through with whatever that Prof. have said. So as for me, I was really interested with the term academic baby. Okay, as you said, the academic baby. Okay? So as a PhD student, that's really true. That's really true. But anyway, I do have my own question, but before that, okay, so I just open the session for any questions from anyone who's here today to Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam. You just on your unmute and then you can ask your questions.
I think it would be great to hear from some of you.
Yes, yes.
The colleagues, friends. even some comments, feedbacks on the slides, the contents. You may disagree with some of it. You can also spell out. All right. If you have any questions. Yeah, you can directly ask question. That should be better as an academic, but you can put it in the chat box also. I don't see any question there in the chat box. Yes, there's no question on the chat box.
It's okay, Prof. Maybe I just want to maybe I can ask one or two questions.
Sure.
Okay, right. You see, Prof. I mean, as a supervisor, sometimes we do find that I'm in the CGS, Center for Graduate Studies. So we do find these problems. Some students will come and change the supervisor. You know, they have some problem with the supervisor, and then they change the supervisor, and then so we appoint another supervisor for a person. Okay, say example for from finance. Okay, so the topic is in finance. So the earlier supervisor was also on finance. So we changed to another supervisor. So for sure we have to also look for a person under finance. So we got a person who's under finance. So now the student is having a new supervisor, okay, with finance background. Then the student comes to the proposal defense level or YWA, okay. So for proposal defense, so then we have to look for a examiner, internal examiners, 2 internal examiners. So without realizing, so we appoint the first supervisor who the student rejected as the external internal examiner. So ethically, do you feel that it is right? Ethically,
of course not. It will be a conflict of interest.
Yes,
if the supervisor, the student change the supervisor, there's no way. Like there was a student from Nigeria in my school. He was under one supervisor. And after some time, somehow they couldn't go alone. So the student came and approached me and said, Prof, I would like to change the supervisors. I said, what should we? Why you want to change the supervisor? He said, somehow I cannot go along with him. I said, okay, but I have to have words with the supervisor first. So I went to my colleague's office. I said, what is the problem with the student? So he said, somehow he cannot go along with the style that I have. And it looks like he cannot follow me. So I said, he is now requesting me to be a supervisor. So what is your view? He said, Prof, please take him in because I don't think I can supervise him. So some kind of understanding has to be there, you know. So I took the student, but the student was so good. He completed everything in 1 year and 9 months. That's the only one student so far I have, you know. 1 year and 9 months, everything completed, he wants to submit. I said, no, you cannot submit before 2 years, right? That's the regulation. I said, all right, these 3 months, we write papers and publish. And you will be very happy to know he has published 11 Scopus papers with me. So when we appointed internal examiner, definitely that colleague of mine, he himself says, I cannot be the internal. So that kind of academic integrity has to be with us. Even if I am appointed an internal examiner for a student who changed the supervisor, I should tell the CGS or the faculty that I should not be the examiner because I was the earlier supervisor. There will be a problem. It comes back to us, problem. You have to unmute your microphone. You have to unmute your microphone, bro.
Yes. Okay. So I do agree with whatever you said, Prof. We do came across a few cases like that. Okay, without realizing. Okay, without realizing, we appointed the person as examiner. Okay, Prof. Then the second thing that I wanted to ask, Prof, because this is something new. What you personally did as a supervisor? So I'm not sure whether because I never come across the few cases that you said just now. When your students come for YWA and all those things, and you are not happy with the examiner's report and the argument. So after the result was given, then you took your own initiative to write in there and here, and then to find out from the exact points, and then you come back to the committee, and then you propose something else, and then the result was changed. So I seldom come across this because, of course, as what I can see that, I mean, it's luck also plays a big role in the student's PhD. Of course, if it is a different set of examiners, the results might be different. And so it's all depending on the examiner. So Again, okay, because one of the points that you gave to be an examiner is a lifesaver. A supervisor is like lifesaver. So are you saying that the role that you played is trying to be like a lifesaver? I mean, after the after the
Prof, the result was not changed.
I see.
The student was given major correction. But I took the responsibility to convince the board that we were right, the students were right. So still he was having major correction. So in Unimap, the difference between major and minor correction is, in minor correction, the student can submit after 1 month, but we can give maximum of 6 months.
Yeah.
In major correction in the final viva, the student can submit after 3 months, maximum we can give up to 1 year. So that student of mine, just because of a little problem, he was given major correction, but he can submit after 3 months. So he submitted after 3 months. But I have cleared the year for the faculty so that next time, no student get into trouble because of that, you know. So that's why I took the task, because the student already given major correction, he can submit and pass. It's not a problem, but I want to clarify that what we have done is correct. So what the examiner said is wrong, but he doesn't want to recognize that he is wrong. Even he said he has wrote it in the research gate. During the Viva versus session, I opened the research gate and it shows him the feedback. No one responded to him. I say, Prof, the one you said is not correct. There's nobody responded. Please look at other comments, dozens of comments, but in your comment, nobody commented because you are wrong. So that's why I took the responsibility to clear the year, you know. So I communicated with Professor Joseph here. You know, he is almost 90 years old.
Yeah.
Last month, he reached 300,000 citation. You know him, right? So I have to communicate, and he was very nice. He responded immediately, and he said, yes, you have done it correct. So go ahead with that. So I have done it, you know, I have done it. So the result remained the same, pass with major correction. We did not change the result, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Okay, I open to the participants here. Is there any questions? Or social professors, and all the supervisors, or if you want to share any of your knowledge with experience in UNICEL?
Yes, I think would be very beneficial, because there could be many competent supervisors than me. I could learn something from you. Some comments could be there, would be very good. I see Sister Noor Asia Hassan put it in the comments box that I always follow your YouTube channel. I do have many students from your university. They follow my webinars and YouTube channel. They contact me through WhatsApp, because I have webinar groups. I have 4 webinar groups. I have 1,100 students from all over the world in 4 webinar groups, and they all are connected with me in WhatsApp. Last night, Prof, for you to know, last night I had online session YouTube channel, writing chapter 2.
Oh.
And last week I had writing chapter 1. So I'm now doing session writing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that I'm doing. So next week would be writing chapter 3. And tomorrow night, I'm going to have a session on Smart PLS, the second session with high order model. So I'm having all that. Every week I have something there. And all of our PhD students. So if you want your students to get into it, they can definitely connect to my YouTube channel. This is free, basically.
Okay, that's very good, Prof. Thank you. Okay, is there any questions?
I think it would be very good to get at least some feedback from someone.
Yes.
Maybe Dr. Salina or Rasli, are you there, Doctor? I see Dr. Salina Rasli is there online.
Yeah. We do have a mixed group here, Prof. We have from the pure science and also from the non-science. We have a lot of engineers and also from the biotechnology here.
All right.
Yeah, it's okay, Prof. Maybe I'll just ask or share my or just ask one more question, Prof. All right.
Okay, sure.
You see, Prof, as I said just now earlier, I mean, of course, the luck plays a very important role also in certain students, you know, because from my experience, I see some students, they're not good, but when they come to YY, you know, because luck is on their side, so they pass easily. You know, some students are very good with the statistics and all those things, but then, you know, luck is not on their side, and then they have to, they might not do well. So I always tell my students that each supervisor might say, if you have 4 supervisors, 4 different supervisors might say 4 different things. Okay, but it's not 100% going to be different. Okay, but at certain points they might say, because as you said just now, we will follow our own supervisor. whatever that our supervisor have taught, that is what we are going to bring to our students. For example, okay, the conceptual framework. Some supervisors say the conceptual framework must be in chapter 1. Some will say they must be in chapter 3. You know, and then for a PhD thesis, and some will say you must have a theoretical framework. Some will say no, it's not necessary to have a theoretical framework. Some will say, you know, your population must be big. You know, so these are the things that each different supervisors will have. So what I will tell my student is, you will come across that. You know, so I say I'm your supervisor. I'm telling you something. When you come for your proposal defense or for your viva, okay, the examiners might say something else. I'm telling you to put the conceptual framework in chapter 1. The examiner will come and tell, why did you put in chapter 1? The examiner, the conceptual framework must be in chapter 3. So what I tell my students is, just listen to whatever comments that every supervisors give. End of the day, you are supposed to read carefully, and you should understand what is it, and you should do according to what you wish, because you are the one who's going to defend, and it is your work and all those things. So what is your opinion, Prof, that when we have, you know, 4 different supervisors saying 4 different things, which actually is right?
That's what I mentioned yesterday during my YouTube live session on writing chapter 2. There are 2 different school of thought. Like USM, theoretical framework is given in chapter 3. At UVM, theoretical framework is given at the end of literature review. So I told them, follow the university practice. There's nothing wrong. Putting in chapter 2 and 3 doesn't make much difference. If you put it at the end of literature review, that's nothing wrong. If you put it at the beginning of chapter 3, it's also not wrong. So if your examiner is advising you to do that, you can accept it. And ultimately, the final decision is made by you and your supervisor, not the examiners. Because the final hard copy, Prof, is signed by the supervisor and the student, not the examiners. So the final authority is in the hand of supervisor. And that's what I tell students. Do not get into heated argument during the viva versus session. If you see that somehow the examiner is very strong, accept it. Tell him, okay, we accept your suggestion. I will talk to my supervisor, and we will look into it. And that's how I train my student, the way they're supposed to deal with the examiners, especially because I tell them, when you go for a job interview, your purpose is to make sure everybody's satisfied and you get the job. Similarly, when you go for final viva, your objective is to pass the viva. Okay, so what's the point of getting into heated argument and fail? Rather than we accept it, come back to your supervisor. Your supervisor has the final authority. He gives you the degree, not the examiners, because the final hard copy is signed by student and the supervisor, not the student and external examiner. Even the hard copy is not approved by internal or external examiner. It's approved by the supervisor. So the final say, come back to the supervisor. And that's what I say, 1-to-1 knowledge transfer. You may agree during the viva session, but later the supervisor said, no, we do not agree, we keep as it is. The supervisor has the right to do so. All right. And that's why that's the way I will train up the student. I remember, Prof, if you allow me, one of my students from Jordan was a very good student. He's now an associate professor. During the viva session, he got into heated argument with the external examiner. And the external examiner happens to be my PhD co-supervisor. Can you imagine the kind of situation? So I asked the chairman, would you allow me to interfere? The chairman said, please go on. So I told the student, Anas, you are wrong, so shut up. That's what I said. I just said, just shut up and listen to the examiner. He was wrong. He was actually wrong. But he was arguing in a way like, you know, he is right and the examiner is wrong. But actually, examiner is right. So I had to step in and I had to tell him, please shut up. So a situation like that happens, you know. So it all depends on the maturity. Definitely at the beginning when I supervise, I remember before the proposal defense or the final viva, I couldn't sleep. For my student viva, but I couldn't sleep. That happened at the beginning. But when 8 or 10 students completed, I become patient, become matured, and I know how to deal with. So I had a very good sleep now. I just go normal. It's like I'm attending a viva session or classroom. So I know what to do in what situation. So it comes with some experiences and all that. The maturity is being grown. So as I said that, you know, the final decision is in the hand of supervisor. So we have to train the students. Go to the viva session, make sure you don't get into heat and, you know, Even though the examiner is wrong, you tell, okay, we take into consideration of your comments. I'll talk to my supervisor. He can definitely try to convince him. When you see that he's not convinced, then tell the examiner, all right, we accept your views, we take it into consideration. I'll talk to my supervisor and we'll review it. I mean, he's not going to say that I'm going to change it. He's saying that I will be going to talk to supervisor and I'll review it, all right? So I think that is the right attitude so that they get the degree. That is very important, all right? Prof, if you allow me, there is a question there.
Yeah.
Can you share your advice to motivate students to complete their study? We know it's hard and based on personal experience. So of course, my personal data, if I give you, I think I have been quite successful. So far, 45 students registered under my supervision, 45 in last 10 years, since 2011. So last 12 years, I got 45 students enrolled under me, 23 completed, 6 dropped out. And I still have 15 doing PhD with me. So looking at 6 out of 45, 15% dropout. So in that way, worldwide, the dropout is 50%. Mine is 1.5, Lima Plus. So in that way, I think I have been quite successful in motivating and working with the students. To Dr. Azza, I think the comment, motivating students, it comes in many different ways. One is positive attitude, being friendly, being flexible, being open with the students, allowing students to talk, openness, you know, in talking, and being flexible in dealing with the students. We know there is a beautiful article written on 5 F's to be successful in 21st century. They say FAST, first. We have to be responsive at first. We respond as fast as possible. First, FIRST, first. We have to be first. You know, in the research area and doing research in certain area, we have to be flexible. We have to be friendly. You know, and there's one more. There are 5 F's. You know, they recommend. So when you are dealing with the students, somehow we have to develop some sort of good rapport, good understanding, mutual respect. That is the key. I started with that, you know, mutual respect. We have to respect the student, their PhD scholar. I have some friends. They said when they come and enroll as a PhD student, they have to give up their positions they had. They are a student now. That's the way they want to treat. I say, no, that is not right. Because there are students who are associate professors, senior lecturer, assistant professors from different countries. We have to respect them as an academy. If you respect them, they respect you. If you don't respect them, they won't show respect to you, you know? So that's the way we deal with. We see the successful leaders in the world. They were all flexible and open and all that. And I think there is a Malay proverb. I cannot remember in Bahasa Malayu. In English, it says basically, as the paddy plants grows, the more the paddy plants grows, the more it bangs. So, but more knowledgeable you are, the more humble you are, the more flexible you are, the more friendly you are, because it is about one-to-one knowledge transfer. Prof. Guna, if you allow me just to share it, another one, there is in Islamic world, there's Imam Ghazali. He said a beautiful word. He said knowledge level are 3. When a person enter into the first level of knowledge, he would be like, I know this, I know that, you know. So he see around people, he feels like he knows more than others. So he feel like he is the father of knowledge, and he started speaking like showing off. You know, I am this, I am that. You know, I'm expert of this. If somebody speaks like that, according to Imam Ghazali, he just entered in the first level of knowledge. And then when he crossed that, enter into the second level of knowledge, his attitude is like, it looks like I know something, but there are many more things to know. That is the second stage. So when an academic reaching at the middle level of knowledge, his attitude is like, it looks like I know something, okay, but there are many more things to know, right? For example, like I have done my PhD. My PhD was in underpricing and earning management. That is very little of finance. I think about 5% of whole finance field. So can I claim that I'm a finance expert? There's no way, because 95% of finance area I have not been. I have not done any research in 95% of finance area. Now, there are so many other business areas, marketing, management, accounting, MIA, there's so many other areas. So that's how it is. When we reach the middle level, we'll have a feeling like, okay, we know little, but there are many more things to know. And according to Imam Ghazali, when a person reaches at the top level of knowledge, his attitude and feeling like, I do not know anything. There are so many things to know. Like that's what Einstein said, right? Einstein is regarded as the greatest scientist in our age or in the history of mankind. Einstein said that I am just playing with the sands in the river of knowledge or in the sea of knowledge. Okay. So he is saying, Einstein, he's saying he is just playing with the sands of the sea of knowledge. If Einstein said that, what about us? How much you know? How much you know? Very little, my brothers and sisters. So that we have to be careful. Sometimes some students are more knowledgeable than supervisor. Even some students are more mature than supervisors. Even some supervisors are some students are more patient and wise than supervisors. And we have to have that respect, mutual respect. That's the key. That will be motivating for students. All right, Dr. Azza. And Dr. Selina, earlier she was in the Asr prayer, was calling the Azan. So she couldn't raise a question. So her question is, I'm still new in supervising postgraduate students. Sometimes I feel difficulties to monitor students with lack of knowledge. This is writing because some of them doesn't have enough time. Any tips to encourage students to stay safe, maintaining the interest plus time management? All right. I think it's about supervision, the art of supervision, you know, the one we have to pick up. Dr. Selina, in everything that we do in our life, there is an art in it. The first time you played sepatakru or badminton, you can imagine how did you play. The first time we started writing paper, we know how did we write. All right. The first time we happen to, you know, debate and presenting paper in a conference, we know how did you do it. So that's how it is. So when you start supervising, definitely challenges are there. As we explore and get experience through, you will be definitely getting the art of supervision. That's what we have to learn. And you will find it very enjoying. That's what I said. I have so published 213 papers. And I think about 175 papers are student papers, not my papers. And I'm very professional. Student number 1, I'm number 2 in all papers. And you can see the students' papers, because I help them to write and publish. We have 700,000 read in ResearchGate, which has made me number 1 in INIMAP in terms of visibility of research papers. And I think many academics will struggle to reach that, you know. Per week, I get 3,000 reads per week. So every month, I get 12,000 reads. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me another 3 years of life, I will cross the 1 million marks in terms of number of people reading our papers. So you will get that enjoyment, that feeling, that joy, you know, of supervising students. So you have to have little hard work and feeling all that at the beginning. Later, I think it should be fine, inshallah. Okay. I have come across of supervisors come to tell me, you know, Prof, my time was so difficult to defend the proposal. Even I had to do it twice. So that's why she's very hard to the students. I say, no, that shouldn't be the way. You have a hard time because you were supervisor or examiners. There could be a reason, but for your student, when you are examiner, you don't have to be hard to the student, right? And that's why in Islam, what is say, Rabbi Yasir, Allah tu Asir, right? We make things easy, you don't make things difficult, okay? So if we have the heart, that's why I bring the concept of 3H, head, heart, and hands. If you have these 3 together, even though you have a very weak student, you will still overcome those difficulties and pitfalls and shortcomings, and you will bring out a better students and graduating PhD students, inshallah. Same way goes like our own kids, you know, when they start walking, they walk a bit, they feel down, we help them to stand, they feel down, we help them to stand. We feed them, they eat a bit and they throw out, we let them eat, they throw out, and still we continue doing that, you know, nurturing a baby. Finally, the baby grows. When they go to the school, it's different. They go to the colleges, different. They go to university, different. Different stages, they have different way of doing things, and we manage them. We have to treat PhD student as same way. That's why I said a PhD student is just like an academic baby. and you have to nurture them. We have to let them grow. They will grow with us, and we will feel the joy of seeing them growing with us. All right. I hope I did touch the kind of answers you wanted. Thank you very much. I think of the Malay what do you call the proverb is there. Ikut resmi padi semakin berisi semakin tundu. Who is giving it? Sister, Brother Sheikh is one. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. There is a proverb like that. Knowledgeable man supposed to be more humble, but unfortunately, in our academic world, we are more arrogant, academic than more humble academic. We have a feeling like we know, Lord, we are the father of knowledge. The way you talk, I'm the father of knowledge. I know everything. Nobody knows more than me. I think that attitude has to be gone. If you are really knowledgeable, you don't have to tell people I'm knowledgeable, right, Prof?
Yes,
if somebody is handsome or beautiful, he doesn't have to go to the street and tell people, hey, look at me, I'm so beautiful. Look at me, I'm handsome. People can see and feel it. A knowledgeable man, when somebody talks to him, will already know after listening to few words how knowledgeable he is, right? I don't have to go and tell around I'm knowledgeable, I'm expert, all that. I don't have to. People can already feel it. All right, Prof, I think I have spoken a lot, so I leave it to you now.
Yes, okay, Prof. Thank you. Then okay, I really appreciate your way of conducting the whole thing today, okay, because I do have to see some lectures will come in point and then go for more on point, but the way that you conducted more on sharing knowledge and all those things, which is very useful and very fruitful, and then I think is good. And from the way that you spoke, I can see that you are a good supervisor. You are a good supervisor. And then so far today, I think you have shared good knowledge without any doubts, and also without hiding any points. Okay, so you have shared all the things from your heart. I think that's very good. And as representing the Center for Graduate Studies, UNICEL, and also University of Selangor as overall, I wish thank you to all the participants who have attended today, and of course our great thanks, okay, to Prof. Dr. Aminul Islam, okay, from University Malaysia Perlis, okay, for sharing his full knowledge in supervising students and okay, how to supervise. I think even if I give another 2 hours, there's a lot of things for him to speak. Okay, so maybe we'll might call you back, Prof, to a different group. Maybe to some you can also share your knowledge with our PhD students. I think
I have actually, Prof, started a physical workshop conducting. Next month, I'm going to have 2 days long workshop on advanced research methods in UPAM. So this would be the beginning of after COVID-19. So if you feel you would need that for your students, definitely I can go around and have 2 days workshop. It's a full package from beginning, identifying research topic until the final Viva session. Everything is covered within 2 days of workshop. So if you're interested, you can definitely contact me.
Is online or face-to-face?
I pay for face-to-face now because it's better, much better. Online is bit difficult as a facilitator. I don't really enjoy anymore.
Okay. It is open for outsiders? Other students?
The UPM one is going to be outsiders. Okay. How can we contact Prof? I think my number is with Dr. Azhar.
Yeah.
And also the slides that I have given you, the slide I have my email address and the telephone number also there. Okay. So those who be interested, you can contact me through that.
Yeah. We will share it with our students. Maybe those who are interested, they can come and listen to you or to your talk. I'm sure it will be very, very fruitful because of your experience and all those things. Okay. So again, Prof, thank you very much. Okay, as representing UNICEL, okay, I would say thank you very much for your time. Okay, and then for the knowledge that you have given, and we hope to hear from you again, Prof. Okay. Sure. So thank you very much.
You're most welcome. All right. See you some other time, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. You take care. You have been a very good moderator. Thank you. Yes, see you some other time. Get to know you.
Okay.
All right. Shall I leave now? Is that okay?
Yes, Prof. Thank you. We will leave it now.
All right. Thank you.
Prof. Thanks.